Now I'd like to call upon another speaker who's a very talented and a very resourceful person. He was a senior in my school, and true story, he taught Chong to play his first song in the same guitar that we just played, right? And he is an engineer who specializes in robotics and artificial intelligence. Did it in the States, right? So without further ado, he's also the co-founder of GoingHomestays and this event. And I'd like to call up on the stage Namkha Norsang. Give it up!
Hi everyone. Surprise, I guess the MC can also be a speaker. Alright. So, like Amolya just introduced me, my name is Namkha and I am a robotics engineer by profession, but I am also a tech entrepreneur. I work on the tech side of GoingHomestays, who are the organizers of this event. So, I'd like to start off my my little speech to you guys by quoting Tolkien. So who among you, Lord of the Rings, have any of you heard Lord of the Rings? So that was written back in the 1950s, and that set the precedents for every single fantasy novel after that. And this which I read is a quote which says, everyone has a certain worth and each contributes to the worth of the others. So we're all coming from different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, in order to make society progress, each of us play a small, sort of part in this whole play of life. And this has especially been true over the decades, right? And that's what we've seen, especially in the development of technology. So, I think if you want to understand what technology is, it'll be nice to just get an introduction to just the modern aspect of it. So, what started off in the 1700s? Does anyone know what happened 1700s? Early 1800s, man. Anyone? You can shout it out. Yes, exactly. The first industrial revolution. So this was a key boy, human beings finally sort of figured out how they can harness the powers of the steam engine in order to create something that would be. They were always using, let's say, horse-drawn carriages and things like that. About natural world, but how to turn energy sources, right, like fuel, steam engines, how to turn that into something useful. That started in the 1700s through the Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution. And then over time, what happened was this industrial revolutions keep happening over and over, right? So the next big industrial revolution, does anyone have a guess again? When was the next industrial revolution? So, does everyone remember the violence that the entire world went through back in the early 1900s? The World Wars, exactly. So the World Wars, what happened was that because of the arms race, every country was fighting to be on top, right? Because of that arms race, we want to develop technology that's better than our enemies. It drove people into what factories do now is mass production. So mass production is the camera start from the time of the conflict between of all the different countries that participated in that, well, not participated, but not like an event or anything, but during that conflict, right? So the next industrial revolution that happened was after this, peace came back, right? After the Second World War, you still had the Cold War where the countries, like especially the big superpowers, were kind of wary of each other. But at the time of peace were developed, the time of peace let the minds of many different people flourish. Yeah. People started thinking of what else we can do with all this technology that we've developed mostly for military purposes. Now how can we bring it to the public? How can we commercialize it and let anyone use it? Now calculators and things, computers and things like that, electronics started to come. They were started because of what? Because of radio communications back in the day between armies and things like that, right? So a piece of technology was once a military grade technology. So in that way, don't take what you have lightly. It's a military grade technology and you can do a lot with it. Right? And so now, what's come about now in the 21st century, right, is that things are growing at an exponential rate, not just linearly, not just this is a very increase. It's increasing like sitte mati, right? So that's an exponential rate once, isn't it? I don't know, does anyone know science student or anyone? Any science students? So my Niludi, yes, she remembers a little bit of her experiences back there. Yeah. Actually, I was a little bit sad when no one wanted to be an engineer over here. Does anyone still think that way? Is there anyone who maybe wants to be an engineer? Has thought about it? Okay, so I hope that what I say next and what I show you next will try to change your mind a little bit. And Maya, when I'm talking about engineering, right, I'm not just talking about taking an exam and going out and like applying for a job and working for a big company. Because the thing is with technology and the knowledge you gain out of engineering, a job is not the only thing that you can get. Job mate paera timi satisfy huncha bhanne kehi guarantee chaina. And that's sort of been my experience as well. So what happened was over the years, I moved to the US. I initially was very interested in mechanical engineering. Well, I wouldn't say very interested, but that was a tick mark that I had to check off, right? And I was interested in physics, maths, and so that I thought that was the most logical thing to do mechanical engineering. But over time, what I realized was that the world is moving towards this fourth industrial revolution, which is that of artificial intelligence and cyber physical systems. So cyber physical systems, of course, apart from the toy train, like if you want to go somewhere, who's going to be shoveling coal into a furnace and taking steam out of that and then driving a vehicle or a thing, right? So nowadays what you're using is electronics. All the control panels and things like that, everything is electronic, right? So now, not just that, what's happening is everything is now being driven by software. It's a software-driven world now. From anything, I would remember Facebook, even the self-driving cars. Have you heard of self-driving cars?
Yeah.
Right? So what they can do is they have sort of this general understanding of what it is to be a driver on a road, and it uses these different concepts in artificial intelligence to gauge, when I'm coming down the lane, so am I going on the right path? Is there an obstacle in front of me? Do I need to stop, or is there a situation where I have to make an abrupt turn so that I can avoid hitting a passerby? So it's not just if-else statements, it's also now artificial intelligence. When it first came out, was just if. Has anyone done computer science? Computer science, okay, so computer science initially is all based on logic. If, else, if this, do this, else, do that. That's the basic principle of how a computer behaves, right? But nowadays, what computers do is they don't think in if-else statements. There's a new branch of artificial intelligence that's emerging. By artificial intelligence, I mean it's not just the ability for a software to understand a particular situation like a human, not like a human, not just as a human, but as a superhuman. So that's called general artificial intelligence, which is reaching a level of human level complexity and beyond. Right? So, in that regard, what I want to ask you guys is, so I talked a little bit about artificial intelligence and how this field is booming right now. So that's where engineers and scientists come in. And does anyone here know what's the difference between a scientist and an engineer? So, Timale, does anyone here want to be an engineer? But the engineer, what comes to your mind? Like, do you understand do you know what an engineer actually is? That, when you know the definition, maybe you'll be like, oh yes, I don't want to be an engineer, or yes, I want to be an engineer. So does anyone know what an engineer is? Anyone would just want to just shout out, what's an engineer? Anyone? Somebody who builds things, right? So, definitely. But what the main idea behind engineering is that's why we have scientists and engineers, Manzani. That's why the scientists, even in technology and science, there's two major parts of that. And those are the two different things that you can think of right now, which way I want to go. Which is, one way is the theoretical aspect of it. You are the one who's discovering new stuff, right? The scientist discovers new stuff, invents the theory behind certain technologies that you're making. But of course, what they make is under lab environments and very controlled environments, right? What they don't understand is how to apply that in the real world under different environmental changes. Ultimately, lab a particular chip. If you put it on a phone and you're using it for playing some games, that's going to be completely different. So the scientist who invented the semiconductor chip has no idea how to put it, how to make use of it so that you can form a business that is going to be selling phones that can play games, right? So that's where the engineer comes in. The engineer, as one of the audience members eloquently put it, is someone who builds things. And by builds things means putting this theoretical knowledge into practice. So that's essentially what an engineer is. The engineer, he or she, uses that knowledge in order to build something that is useful to everyone. So in short, that's what an engineer is. And now, I want to give a short, I just want to show you some of the projects that I've worked on previously. Alright, so, first thing. So, earlier I talked about artificial intelligence, right? So the theory of what I'm about to show you has already been discovered by computer scientists. And this is one major thing that's popping up nowadays, is machine learning. You must have heard of machine learning. Even like the ones who are not interested in engineering know about machine learning, right? So what machine learning is doing is, if-else statements are भन्छ नि पहिलाको AI ले चाहिँ userले यस्तो गर्यो भने म यस्तो गर्छु भन्ने. That's no longer the case. What machine learning is doing is it's using data, बाहिरबाट आएको huge amounts of data, and it's using statistics from that data. It's like अब 500 जनाले एउटा कुरा राम्रो भन्यो अरे र 2 जनाले एउटा कुरा नराम्रो भन्यो भने, so the computer understands, the computer is a little bit more biased towards the 500, right? So that's how artificially intelligent robots and anything nowadays, that's how it thinks. It doesn't think in terms of if esto garyo भने esto हुन्छ or else something happens. Now what it does is it uses, especially in this case, this is a special branch of machine learning called reinforcement learning. So when you were a baby, when everyone here was a little child, how did you learn things? Like how did you know what not to do and what to do? Like, can anyone just? You were told. Okay, what about, okay, so that's more of a passive thing, right? So what was a more active way of how you learned? You seen, right? Yes, seeing. Anything else? Doing an action?
Again,
Repeating an action, yes. Anything else? Punishments, yes. You're learning from punishments. Exactly, so these are all the concepts behind what I'm about to show you, which is reinforcement learning. And what reinforcement learning is it's teaching computers how to think like humans and how to learn like humans. So instead of telling the robot to, if the robot is here, place the leg here in order to move forwards, what it's saying is, hey robot, तिमी आफै try गर न, तिमी आफै try गर, यता make some mistakes, यताउति you do some action, भयो भने भयो, भएन भने, like, you know, try it again, keep on trying until you find out something, like you'll figure it out. But that's the way, like, you guys adequately answered, right? That's how humans learn, right? So that's exactly how this particular robot it was a small class project of mine when I was in Georgia Tech. So this was what it was in the beginning. It was trying to figure out how to walk. So it's doing all these jerky movements. And then finally gave up. Right? So, I mean, if I had the chance to extend this project for even more time, I would have probably gotten a better result. But the end result that I had, I'll show you, was that it started to actually understand the basic concepts of how to move its leg forward, how to move its back leg, how to coordinate. So even though it didn't really walk like an actual quadruped, right? It started to understand how to interact with the environment, how it's going to take all these different factors, like how it's sliding on that particular surface, how it needs to take one particular arm forward and then the other one back, right? So it all learned on its own through a specific set of algorithms. So algorithms are what drive it. An algorithm is basically just a logical sequence of things, right? And so this logic is embedded. Your logic say the microprocessor and then the microprocessor basically utilizes the entire robot body to figure out where it is, what it needs to do, and then eventually learn how to do what it's intended to do. So that, in short, is machine learning and reinforcement learning. And so this is just a small part of what I've said, machine learning. Facebook have you guys seen अरे यो त एउटा एड त मैले अस्ति भर्खर एउटा शर्ट किन्नु इच्छा थियो त्यही शर्टकै एड पो छ त. Has anyone seen that all the time, right? That's essentially another branch of machine learning. It's unsupervised machine learning. It's a combination of what's called unsupervised and supervised machine learning. So this basically goes on. It uses all your data. So unfortunately, what big companies are doing nowadays, it's whatever you do on the internet, right? There's some digital footprint. There's always something out there that the companies know that, like, let's say you shop for something, or you've looked at a specific type of thing, let's say a book or a shoe or something like that, right? And then what it does with all this data is collects it and then figures out, what is this person going to buy next? So that's also a job, actually. And has anyone heard of what is a data scientist? Does anyone know what a data scientist is? So essentially what I bhane, right? That work of using users' data and then getting something meaningful out of it and predicting what a person is going to buy or what a person is going to do next. That's essentially what a data scientist also does. It's the art of using data to predict the future, right? So that's the data scientist word didn't even exist like 7 or 8 years down the road, and that's the same thing what Needledee said as well, right? There's certain professions that never even existed just 7, 8 years ago, but this is this is what's happening nowadays. Like everything, there's new things like this growing in every single field. And in technology especially, there's so many new avenues. And what today, I'd also like to show you a little bit of some of the projects I did at work, or at least I was involved in at work. And so I worked at Decker Research and Development in New Hampshire, in the US. And this is one of their flagship products. It's a medical device. It's considered a medical device, but what it is, it's a wheelchair. That was one of my co-workers, Mr. Brent Kidberger. Volumes. Can we put that and put the volume? Yeah, so what this is basically a robotic wheelchair. You know how a regular wheelchair, they can't climb steps, and like everyone has to manually roll the wheels in order to get somewhere. You know? This is completely powered. It's completely battery powered, and not only that, you can also climb steps, which I don't think any wheelchair can do. Right? So one last thing I'd like to show you is this project that I was also involved in, and it came on the late night show with Jimmy Fallon, and this is the FedEx same day robot. So, the autonomous vehicles running. So this not this payment, but
you guys are awesome, guys. It's time to meet our last robot. It is a collaboration between Decker Research and FedEx. Please welcome Bree Carreri and the FedEx same-day robot. Bree Carreri. Now this is the FedEx same-day robot.
Yes, we are so excited to introduce it to you and to the whole world. It's our global unveiling.
Tell me about this thing. What is it?
Well, the FedEx thing we got is an autonomous delivery device, and it is going to bring goods to your home. And we've got a package for you coming now, actually.
It's coming down the hall? Where is the robot?
Absolutely. It's on its way down.
Look at this thing. This is the future. Oh my gosh. So this is just going to be out on the streets and just around, and now can get, what can it deliver?
Wow, it can deliver lots. It can deliver anything from your local restaurant, from a local retailer. I know you're a parent.
Yeah.
So if you're at home, you have a sick child, and you want to go to the pharmacy, it can bring the medicine to you at your door.
And it can deal with all these elements? Let's see.
Well, let's watch it. I think it will.
This is insane. This is the future. This is
So it can go on.
So, this particular system, right? If you just look at this system, there's so many components to it, right? Each component is a completely different job. From the designing outside aspect of it is a mechanical engineer's job. The inside, the electronics section is what an embedded software engineer does, right? The camera system and the localization system, that's the LiDAR, which is a laser detection device. That's a computer vision engineer. So that's what I'm saying, that this is one single product, but there's so many different aspects to it, and there's so many different avenues just in order to build a single product. Okay? And Nashim, you can continue.
Paved or unpaved surfaces.
So he's on the beach right there.
Yes,
Now he's just
yes.
off-roading a little bit.
Through the water.
Through the water. Come on, get up to the top, buddy. Can he do it? Can he do
You
it?
can do it.
This is the future right here. This is unbelievable.
So in the future you might see this.
Now I hear that you guys have some big news.
We do. Tomorrow we have our national unveiling. We're going to talk about all the national retailers that we've been partnered.
So yeah, that's essentially, this is something that's still in development, of course, but soon it's going to be deployed out into the real world. Streets ma who knows, one day even in Darjeeling you might see something like this just walking down and you I don't know, you guys might be too young, but some of the others might remember how first my phone on that because of phone लाएर बोल्दाखेरि ए यो मान्छे त पक्ला भएछ भन्थ्यो नि right? So even these things nowadays, like if you see them walking down the road, oh, you kill, kosto, but eventually technology becomes commonplace and you start to accept it, right? So, so now what I want to focus a little bit on is not just coming back to that point that I made earlier about not just doing a job in engineering, because I feel that when someone is an engineer, right? An engineer is a problem solver, right? And there's so many people who come out of engineering, they decide they don't want to do engineering, and we've had many examples, not just Nidhi, but even my co-founder of GoingHomestays, Ashwin, who was an engineer by profession, by education, right? And once he was done with that, he decided to pursue something else. But what he retained from his engineering education was one big thing: the art of problem solving. Right? Problem solving is something that is required for everyone in their lives, right? In order to think logically and come to a solution to any sort of difficulty that arises, that comes in your way. So I think that's one big benefit of having a sort of an engineering background is whenever a hardship came, that person always doesn't think that yes, that feeling usually, at least, I can't speak for everyone, but that's not the feeling that's usually associated with an engineer, because an engineer will think, okay, so this is what I have, this is the problem that I have, right? So what are my constraints? So each of them will tackle one by one and then find a solution to that. So that's something that any profession, if someone who goes into any profession can take with them, with that sort of mindset, with that sort of problem-solving mindset that usually engineers and scientists have. Right, and now, so now what I'd like to just show you is a little bit of a demo. This is being. Have you guys seen drones before? So, I mean, as an engineer, people make fun of us because we're too scientific, we're too bound by these scientific principles, right? Everyone talks about this equation, that equation, right? And then, see, like all those small movements, right? They're actually determined by a certain specific set of equations, right? The way each of the four propellers generates lift, because that's what it's doing. It's generating a force called lift, which opposes the gravitational force coming downwards. And that's the basic principle, right? As nerds like me, we'll keep on talking about things like this, right? But what I'm trying to say is, with this technology, like, it's not just the science behind it, right? What can you do with this drone? What can you do with this drone? You can attach a camera to it and you fly it around certain locations, right? And an entire industry is born of actually doing aerial surveys, right? In any sort of situation, not just let's say civil engineering or I mean, you can use drones to survey sites, but also in filmmaking, when you want certain specific shots, you know, helicopter like rent aerial shots, you know. Now you can do it with a much cheaper alternative. So, what's it? There you can bring it down. Okay, so now what you can do with this technology is limitless, right? Oh, you know the science behind it and everything, but it's what ultimately, what you can take out of this is, wait, I can use this for a certain, okay, I want to make a movie. I want to show my clients a certain specific area that no human can take a picture of. So wait, if I have a drone, you know, I can start offering these services to people. You don't have to apply to like a certain big company in order to be able to do that, you know. You can use existing technologies like these in an effective manner and create your own business out of things. So that's what I want to let you guys know, that don't be confined. Don't think म खाली engineer चाहिँ job गर्नलाई मात्रै गर्न सक्छु. Engineering principles, science principles ले चलाएर you can be a businessman, a businesswoman out of it and find happiness in that. And that's, I think, what I want to, as I'm winding down my speech, that's what I want to focus on as well, is whatever you end up doing, right? I think you need you need to find that happiness in whatever you do. Because if you're not happy doing what you love, and this, I might be beating this point over and over, which like other speakers have also talked about, but if you're not happy with what you're doing, then your work is not going to be good, and you will not feel fulfillment with it. Right? So that's one major thing about, if it's something that makes you happy, go for it, and don't think about just a job, right? Because now in India, the engineering market is saturated. Every dad and mom wants their child to be like an engineer, doctor, lawyer, engineer. So too many engineers is also not really good, right? So now what I'm saying is move more towards the business aspect of technology if you're thinking of a career in science and technology. And then finally, I just want to share like some of my own experiences when I moved out of Darjeeling. A big thing for me, and I think it's the same thing for a lot of other people as well, is when we grew up, सानो हुँदादेखि and तिमीहरू त्यस्तै छ है, अहिले हाम्रो parents, teachers, everyone looks out for us. Our elders, everyone tells you, yo nagar, esto nagar, and they do it out of love for us. They do it out of, they have our best interests at heart, right? So when you're done with everything, when you're done with your school and you're going out into the real world, you start working, you soon realize that all these things that your parents and your teachers like did for you, that's actually very rare in the real world, because no one cares, everyone really cares about themselves, to be honest. Right? And out in the real world, there are people out there who are going to take advantage of you. Everything is not going to be like, we're giving you advice and people want the best for you, right? So people are going to pull you down. In a nice way, they're going to tell you things that are going to bring you down. So don't think that this bubble, this sort of comfort bubble is going to last forever. Always remember that that's something that's not out there in the world. You need to create that for yourself. You need to create your own support system out there, and always realize not everyone has your best interest at heart. And finally, I think out of all my experiences, I think one thing that stuck with me the most is, again, I'm also, like Kairon, a huge fan of Bruce Lee, right? And so what I loved, and I'd like to end my speech with that particular quote, is be like water. Because water can flow or it can crash. Right? And it can, when you pour it into a teacup, it becomes the teacup. When you pour it into a bigger vessel, it becomes that vessel. Right? So what I'm trying to say is, when you go out into the real world, you need to adapt to different situations. They'll pull you down. Situations, hardship situation, you might get unlucky, you might not get the dream job that you wanted, right? But you need to adapt, because you can't control the world outside you. Right? You can't control what someone else is going to tell you. You can't control what the weather is going to be like tomorrow. What you can control is yourself. So when you are like water, you can take the shape of any sort of circumstance that you are currently dealing with. So finally, what I'm saying is that not just that, but when you're changing, right? When you're adapting to all these situations, water always remains water. It doesn't change what it is within, what is within itself. So water always remains water, but it takes the shape of different vessels. But भित्रबाट तिमीहरूको आफ्नो आफ्नोपन जो छ त्यो चाहिँ कहिले नहराउनु. But yeah, adapt to situations, but always remember who you are. Thank you.